Welcome back to Aya Karns. Ready for another story? Enjoy watching.
The doctor's hands were trembling. I noticed it immediately, the way her fingers shook as she scrolled through my test results on the screen. She looked at me, then back at the screen, then at me again. Her face had gone pale, and for a moment I thought she was about to tell me I had cancer. I was ready for that. I'd been preparing myself for bad news for months now. What I wasn't ready for was what actually happened next. Dr. Walsh stood up abruptly and asked me to follow her, not to the exam room, to her private office. She closed the door behind us, pulled the blinds shut, and turned to face me with an expression I'll never forget. It was fear, a doctor, afraid. She spoke barely above a whisper. "You need to leave your house today," she said. "Don't tell your husband. Don't change anything about your routine until you're safely out." Then she turned her computer screen toward me, and what I saw made my blood boil. I'm Aya Karns. I'm 31 years old. I work as a senior accountant at a mid-sized firm in Portland, Oregon. I've been married for 4 years to a man named Glenn Reeves, a pharmaceutical sales representative, and for the past 5 months, I felt like I was slowly dying. It started with fatigue, not regular tiredness, the kind of exhaustion that makes you forget your own phone number. Then came the nausea, constant and low grade, like seasickness that never went away. My hair started falling out in clumps. I'd find it on my pillow, in the shower drain, tangled in my brush. My thoughts became foggy, scattered. I couldn't concentrate at work. I couldn't remember conversations from the day before. I was 31 years old and felt like I was 90. I went to 3 different doctors over those 5 months. Each one told me something different. Stress, anemia, hormonal imbalance. One suggested I was working too hard. Another hinted at anxiety. They ran tests, found nothing conclusive, and sent me home with vitamins and suggestions to rest more. I blamed turning 30. Apparently 30 doesn't include arsenic poisoning in the welcome package. That's more of a "your husband is a psychopath" bonus feature. Glenn took me to every single appointment. He sat in waiting rooms holding my hand, asked doctors detailed questions, took notes on his phone about my symptoms. Everyone thought he was wonderful. The nurses loved him. One receptionist told me I was lucky to have such a devoted husband. I believed her. I believed all of it. But now I was sitting in Dr. Walsh's office, staring at a screen showing my bloodwork results, and everything I believed was crumbling. Arsenic. Elevated levels of arsenic in my blood. Not enough to kill me quickly. That was the horrifying part. The levels were consistent with chronic, low-dose exposure over several months. Someone wasn't trying to murder me in one dramatic act. Someone was killing me slowly, carefully, methodically, making it look like a mysterious illness that doctors couldn't explain. Dr. Walsh asked me questions in that same hushed voice. Who prepares your food at home? Does anyone have regular access to your drinks? Is there anyone who might want to harm you? And then it hit me, like a truck, like a train, like the ground opening up beneath my feet. Glenn makes me a protein smoothie every morning. He started 5 months ago, exactly when my symptoms began. He said he was worried about my nutrition, that I wasn't eating enough, that the smoothie would give me energy. It tasted awful, like someone blended lawn clippings with good intentions. I thought that was just what health food tastes like. I drank it every single day because my husband made it with love. Except it wasn't love, it was arsenic. Dr. Walsh explained what she suspected. Glenn is a pharmaceutical sales representative. He understands chemistry, dosages, how the human body processes different substances. He wouldn't need to Google how to poison someone. He already knew. The doses in my system were carefully calculated, enough to make me chronically ill, not enough to raise immediate red flags. He wanted my death to look natural, a tragic young wife who wasted away from an unknown disease, a heartbroken husband left behind. I thought about all those doctor's appointments, Glenn sitting next to me, holding my hand, performing concern for every nurse and physician who watched. He wasn't supporting me through illness. He was creating an alibi, establishing himself as the devoted husband who tried everything to save his wife. Dr. Walsh gave me clear instructions. Don't change your behavior. Don't let him know you suspect anything. Don't suddenly stop drinking the smoothies. He'll notice. Contact the police immediately. She gave me her personal email address because she was afraid Glenn might monitor our shared accounts. I walked out of that clinic on legs that didn't feel like my own. My phone buzzed in my purse, a text from Glenn. How did the appointment go, honey? I made your favorite dinner, lasagna. Can't wait to see you. I stared at those words for a full minute. This man I'd married 4 years ago. This man I'd built a life with, shared a bed with, trusted with everything. He was waiting at home for me right now, with dinner, with a smile, with another smoothie ready for tomorrow morning. I had to go home. I had to sit across from him at the table and eat his lasagna. I had to kiss him goodnight and let him hold me. I had to pretend that everything was normal while my husband was slowly, deliberately, patiently ending my life. I texted back, "On my way, can't wait to see you too." Then I got in my car and screamed until my throat was raw. Before we continue, please hit subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I read every single comment, and I appreciate you more than you know. I walked through my front door that evening with a smile on my face and murder in my heart. Not his murder, my survival, but I had to play the role of my life. Glenn was in the kitchen when I came in, stirring something on the stove. He turned and smiled at me, that warm, caring smile I'd fallen in love with years ago. He asked about my appointment, his voice full of gentle concern. I told him the doctor found mild anemia. Nothing serious, just needed some new supplements. He nodded thoughtfully and said he'd research the best brands for me. Always taking care of me, always so devoted. I wanted to throw up. Instead, I thanked him and went to change clothes. The smoothie problem was my first challenge. I couldn't just stop drinking them. Glenn prepared them every morning and watched me take the first few sips before he left for work. If I suddenly refused, he'd know something had changed. So I came up with a story. I told him my new medication couldn't be taken with protein, that I needed to wait at least 2 hours after eating. He bought it completely. Now he leaves the smoothie in the fridge for me to drink later. And when he goes to work, most of it goes down the drain. I keep drinking small amounts, though, just enough that my symptoms improve slowly rather than suddenly. I tell Glenn the new supplements are helping a little. He seems pleased with my progress, which is terrifying when you think about it. He planned for slow deterioration, so slow improvement doesn't alarm him. He's patient. He thinks he has time. Meanwhile, I've become an actress in my own home. I use minimal makeup to look pale and tired. I complain about fatigue even when I feel stronger. I take naps when Glenn is home, lying awake in bed pretending to sleep while my mind races through everything I need to do. He brings me tea and fluffs my pillows and tells me to rest. The man deserves an Oscar or a prison cell. He was about to get one of those. As the days passed, I started to piece together how long this had been planned. I'd given Glenn control of our finances about 2 years ago. He suggested it so gently. I worked such long hours, he said. I deserved to come home and relax, not worry about bills and bank statements. Let him handle it. I thought it was love. It was control. My friendships had faded too, and I was only now realizing why. Glenn never forbade me from seeing anyone. He just sighed heavily whenever I mentioned plans with my best friend Nina. She's so negative, he'd say. I just want you surrounded by people who lift you up. He did this every time until I stopped making plans altogether. Death by 1,000 sighs. Very effective. Zero evidence. One evening, while Glenn was at work, I went through our home office files. As an accountant, I know where to look and what to look for. It took me 20 minutes to find what I'd missed for 2 years. A life insurance policy on me worth $750,000. Glenn was the sole beneficiary. The policy was taken out 10 months ago, 4 months before the poisoning even started. This wasn't a crime of passion. This wasn't a man who snapped one day. This was a calculated plan developed over nearly a year. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold the folder. I kept digging. I found transfers to a separate bank account I didn't know existed. $40,000 over 8 months, hidden under categories like professional development and business expenses. An average person would never find this. But I've audited companies that tried harder to hide money. I once found $2 million disguised as office supplies. Glenn's little scheme was like an elephant hiding behind a lamppost. Then I decided to follow him. He told me he was meeting a client for dinner one evening. Something in his voice sounded wrong, a slight eagerness he couldn't quite hide. I waited 10 minutes after he left, then got in my car and followed his route downtown. He went to a restaurant I'd never been to. Through the window, I watched him meet a woman. She was younger than me, maybe late 20s, with dark hair and expensive jewelry I'd never seen Glenn buy. They were clearly intimate. She touched his arm constantly. He leaned close to whisper things that made her smile. This wasn't a client meeting, but something struck me as strange. The woman, I'd later learn her name was Simone Halford, didn't look happy. Even when she smiled, there was tension in her shoulders. She kept checking her phone, distracted, anxious. Glenn was all charm, but she wasn't glowing the way a woman in love should glow. I filed this observation away. It didn't fit the picture yet, but it felt important. I also noticed something else in those weeks. Glenn's mother, Renata, had been unusually present lately. She came by almost every day to check on me, brought homemade soup, sat with me while I rested. This was strange because Renata had never liked me. At our wedding, she told Glenn's aunt that I was not quite right for her precious son. For 3 years, she'd treated me like an unwelcome guest in her son's life. Now suddenly she was devoted to my well-being. It made no sense. Then I overheard Glenn on the phone with her. "Thanks for checking on her today, Mom," he said. "I worry so much when I'm at work." He'd asked his own mother to watch me. Renata thought she was helping her worried son care for his sick wife. She didn't know she was part of a surveillance system. Glenn was using everyone, manipulating his own mother's guilt about her past coldness toward me. Now that I was dying, Renata wanted to make things right, and Glenn was exploiting that completely. I had pieces of a puzzle now: a husband poisoning me for insurance money, a secret bank account, a mysterious woman who didn't look happy, and a mother-in-law unknowingly recruited as a spy. But something still didn't fit. Why was Simone so tense? And what else was Glenn hiding? There's something I'm not seeing yet, I told myself. Something bigger. I was right. I contacted Detective Maria Reyes through Dr. Walsh's referral. She specialized in domestic crimes and had seen cases like mine before. We met at a coffee shop on the other side of the city, far from anywhere Glenn might see us. Detective Reyes was direct and professional. She believed me immediately, which felt like the first breath of fresh air I'd had in months. She explained what we needed: concrete evidence of the poison, proof of who was administering it, financial documentation showing motive, and ideally something recorded that tied Glenn directly to the crime. Oregon is a one-party consent state, she told me. That means you can legally record any conversation you're part of without telling the other person. My first task was getting evidence of the poison itself. I saved one of Glenn's smoothies instead of dumping it, stored it in a container Nina brought me, and sent it to a private laboratory Detective Reyes recommended. The results came back within a week. Arsenic compounds, low but consistent doses, exactly matching the levels in my blood work. Now I had proof of what was poisoning me. I still needed proof of who and how. Glenn works in pharmaceuticals, but arsenic isn't a medication. His company's records showed nothing suspicious. Detective Reyes had already checked. So where was he getting it? I remembered Simone. I'd done some research after following Glenn that night. Her full name was Simone Halford, and according to LinkedIn, she worked at Pacific Northwest Industrial Supply. They sold chemicals for various industries, including arsenic compounds used in wood treatment and glass manufacturing. But Simone worked in accounts, not the warehouse. She didn't handle products directly. How would Glenn get arsenic through her? My father was an accountant, too. He taught me everything I know about this work. He always said, documentation is protection. Keep records of everything. I thought he was paranoid when I was younger. Turns out he was preparing me to survive my own husband. I made a decision that Detective Reyes advised against. I needed to talk to Simone directly. I found her at a cafe during her lunch break, sitting alone at a corner table. When I approached, her face hardened immediately. She knew who I was. Glenn must have shown her photos, probably warning her about his unstable wife. "You're the wife," she said coldly. "I have nothing to say to you." I sat down anyway. I showed her the laboratory results proving arsenic in my blood. She scoffed. "Glenn said you'd try to turn me against him," she said, "that you're manipulative, unstable." I showed her the life insurance policy, $750,000 on my life, Glenn as sole beneficiary. She hesitated for just a moment, then recovered. He's just being responsible, planning for the future. He loves you. He talks about how worried he is all the time. She'd been coached. Glenn had prepared her for exactly this scenario, told her I might approach her with lies. I had to find another way in. So I asked her one simple question. Did Glenn ask you to get life insurance too? Her face went pale. How did you know that? Let me guess, I said. About $500,000. He told you it was for your future together, for when you're finally a real couple. He made it sound romantic, a commitment to your shared life. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her silence confirmed everything. I leaned forward. Simone, I'm not the bitter wife trying to hold on to a bad marriage. I'm Glenn's current victim, and you're his next one. That's when everything changed. Simone told me her story. She met Glenn 14 months ago at a professional conference. He was charming, attentive, everything a woman could want. He told her his marriage was a mistake, that I was cold and distant, that he was trapped. He was waiting for the right time to leave. She believed him because she wanted to believe him. 8 months ago, Glenn convinced her to get life insurance, $500,000. He said it was for their future, so they'd be protected when they were finally together openly. She thought it was romantic. She was 28 years old and in love with a man who whispered promises about the life they'd build. She signed the papers gladly. Around the same time, Glenn asked for a small favor. He needed to order some specialty products for work, and his company's supplier was expensive. Simone's company had better prices. Could she give him access to her ordering account just to save some money? She gave him her login credentials without hesitation. She never checked what he actually ordered. She never saw any products delivered. I watched her face as the truth clicked into place. Glenn used her account to order the arsenic that's been poisoning me. If investigators traced the purchase, it would lead to Simone, not to him. She was his scapegoat. And once I was dead, and he'd collected the $750,000, she would be next. Another tragic loss. Another insurance payout, a grieving man who just couldn't catch a break. 2 women, 2 policies, $1.25 million total. Simone started shaking. I thought he loved me, she whispered. I gave up everything for him. I've been waiting for over a year. I know, I said. That's what he does. He makes you feel special while he plans your funeral. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and the hostility was gone. We were 2 women who'd fallen for the same lie, told by the same man, and we were both supposed to end up dead. What do we do? She asked. That's when my old friend Nina came back into my life. She'd sensed something was wrong and couldn't stay away any longer. She reached out the same week I met with Simone, and when I told her everything, she wasn't surprised. I always thought Glenn smiled like someone who practiced in the mirror, Nina said. Too perfect, like a shark in a polo shirt. I asked her why she never told me before. She said telling someone in love that their partner is creepy is like telling a cat not to knock things off tables. They have to figure it out themselves. Fair point. Simone agreed to cooperate with Detective Reyes. She provided her account records showing orders she never placed, products she never authorized. The arsenic compound had been shipped to a P.O. box, one Glenn rented under a different name, thinking he'd covered his tracks. He hadn't, not well enough. Now I had the poison source. I had financial motive documented down to the penny. I had 2 women willing to testify. But Detective Reyes wanted one more thing to make the case airtight. Glenn himself saying something, anything, that tied it all together. And I knew exactly how to get it. I just had to get closer to the man who was trying to kill me. Detective Reyes coordinated the next phase of our operation with precision. Simone provided her company's account records, and there it was, an order for arsenic trioxide placed 6 months ago. The delivery address was a P.O. box across town, rented under the name Gerald Richards, a fake name, but security cameras at the postal facility told a different story. Detective Reyes obtained footage showing Glenn picking up packages from that exact box on 3 separate occasions. His face was clear as day. He thought he'd been so careful. He wasn't careful enough. Simone became our inside source. She continued seeing Glenn as if nothing had changed, meeting him for dinners, listening to his lies about their future together. The difference now was that she recorded everything. Oregon's one-party consent law meant every word Glenn said to her was admissible in court. The recordings were chilling in their normalcy. Glenn talked about their future. After my situation resolved itself, he mentioned the money he'd been setting aside, how they'd have plenty to start fresh. Once Ayla's health declines further, he told her one evening, we can finally stop hiding. It's tragic, really, but she won't suffer much longer. He sounded caring even while discussing my death, like a man describing a sad but inevitable event, something beyond his control, the weather, a natural disaster, not something he was actively causing with every smoothie he prepared. Meanwhile, at home, I delivered the performance of my lifetime. I looked sicker than I felt, moved slower than I needed to, smiled weakly at Glenn's constant attention. Thank you for taking care of me, I told him one night. I don't know what I'd do without you. The words tasted like the poison he'd been feeding me, but I said them anyway, and he kissed my forehead and told me to rest. The hardest part was Renata. Glenn's mother continued her daily visits, bringing soup and concern in equal measure. She sat with me while I pretended to sleep, sometimes holding my hand. I could feel her guilt about the years she'd spent treating me coldly. She was trying to make amends before it was too late. She didn't know there was nothing to make amends for. Her coldness hadn't been the problem. Her son was the problem, and she had no idea. I wanted to tell her. Part of me felt she deserved to know what her son really was, but Detective Reyes cautioned against it. Renata loved Glenn unconditionally, the way mothers do. If she knew the truth, she might confront him, warn him, give him time to destroy evidence or disappear. I had to let her keep believing the lie a little longer. If this story is keeping you on the edge of your seat, please take a second to hit that like button. Your support means more than you know. Now let's finish this. Detective Reyes wanted one final piece of evidence, something from Glenn directly, not through Simone. She asked if I was willing to wear a wire and have a specific conversation with my husband. The goal wasn't to get a confession. Glenn was too smart for that. The goal was to establish his knowledge of the insurance policy and his comfort with discussing my potential death. Combined with everything else, it would complete the picture. I agreed immediately. Nina came over the morning I was supposed to do it. She helped me position the recording device, a tiny thing barely visible, and talked me through staying calm. I've seen enough crime shows to know not to scratch nervously or adjust anything suspicious. Act natural. Don't think about the recorder. I decided to think about tax returns instead. Very calming. That evening, Glenn came home to find me looking particularly weak. I'd outdone myself with the pale makeup and tired posture. I told him I'd been thinking about the future, about what would happen if my health didn't improve. Glenn, I said, if something happens to me, I want to make sure you're taken care of. His face arranged itself into perfect concern. Don't talk like that, honey. You're going to get better. But just in case, I pressed, the life insurance, our savings, I want you to have everything. I want to know you'll be okay. He held my hand, squeezed it gently. Let's not think about such dark things, he said. But I noticed he didn't refuse. He didn't say he couldn't bear to consider a world without me. He just deflected and waited. I mentioned the insurance policy specifically. I'm glad we have that protection, I said. $750,000. That's enough for you to start over, build a new life. He nodded slowly. I'll take care of everything, he said. I always do. Not a confession, but not a denial either. A man with nothing to hide would have insisted his wife was going to survive. Glenn simply accepted the premise of my death like it was already decided. Later that night, as I pretended to sleep, Glenn made a phone call in the hallway. He thought I couldn't hear. He didn't know the wire was still recording. He called Simone. She's getting worse, he said, his voice low and eager. Probably a few more weeks at most. Then we're finally free. He sounded relieved, happy even, excited about my death the way someone might be excited about an upcoming vacation. That was the moment something broke inside me, not into pieces, into clarity. Cold, hard, unshakable clarity. This man had never loved me. I'd been a target from the beginning, a means to an end. The wedding, the vows, the 4 years of what I thought was marriage, all of it was just set up for a payday. Detective Reyes called me the next morning. The arrest warrant was signed. Glenn Reeves would be taken into custody the following day. 8 weeks of investigation, 14 months of his manipulation, 4 years of a marriage that was never real. One more night. I just had to survive one more night. One more dinner, one more smoothie I wouldn't drink. One more kiss from a man who was counting down the days until I died. I made it through. Barely. The morning of Glenn's arrest started like any other morning. I woke up before he did, made coffee, moved quietly through the kitchen. He came downstairs around 7, showered and dressed for work, smelling like the cologne I used to love. He kissed me goodbye the way he always did. "Rest today, honey," he said. "I'll bring home dinner tonight." I nodded and smiled. "Have a good day." He walked out the front door. 20 minutes later, he walked back in, escorted by Detective Reyes and 2 uniformed officers. There was no dramatic scene, no shouting, no struggle, no public humiliation. Just 3 law enforcement officials at my door with a badge and a warrant, and my husband's face cycling through confusion, then calculation, then something cold and empty. "Glenn Reeves," Detective Reyes said. "You're under arrest for attempted first-degree murder and insurance fraud. You have the right to remain silent." Glenn looked at me. I was standing in the kitchen doorway, still holding my coffee cup. For the first time in 4 years, I saw his real face. No warmth, no love, no concern. Just a stranger doing math in his head, trying to figure out where his plan went wrong. "This is a mistake," he said calmly. "My wife is confused. She's been very sick. Still performing? Even now?" Detective Reyes didn't blink. "We have laboratory analysis of the poison, financial records, witness testimony, and recorded conversations. You can save the performance for your lawyer." Something flickered in Glenn's eyes. Just for a moment, then it was gone. "I want my attorney," he said. "That's your right." They handcuffed him right there in our living room, read him his rights, walked him to the unmarked car waiting in our driveway. He didn't look back at me. Not once. I stood at the window and watched them drive away. The man I'd married, the man I'd trusted, the man who'd held me while I cried about my mysterious illness, disappearing down our quiet suburban street in the back of a police car. I expected to feel triumph, victory, something powerful and satisfying. Instead, I just felt tired and free. At the station, Glenn's expensive lawyer arrived within the hour. Glenn immediately deployed his backup plan. Blame Simone. "She must have poisoned my wife," he told detectives. "Simone was obsessed with me. She wanted Ayla out of the picture. I had no idea what she was doing. It was a smart play. Simone had access to the chemicals. Simone had motive. She wanted Glenn for herself. If Glenn hadn't been so confident in his own cleverness, it might have worked. But he didn't know that Simone had been cooperating with police for 3 weeks. He didn't know about the recordings where he discussed my death with visible enthusiasm. He didn't know about the security footage of him picking up arsenic shipments from a P.O. box he thought was untraceable. Detective Reyes played the recordings for him, his own voice, telling Simone that I probably had a few more weeks left. His own voice, calm and eager, saying they'd finally be free. That's when Glenn's face changed. That's when he knew. He tried to blame Simone, I said later to Nina, and she laughed bitterly. Guess he didn't get the memo that his backup plan had switched sides. Turns out, women talk to each other. Revolutionary concept. The evidence was overwhelming. Arsenic in the smoothies, confirmed by laboratory analysis. Arsenic ordered through Simone's work account using credentials only Glenn possessed. Security footage of Glenn retrieving the shipments. A life insurance policy taken out 4 months before the poisoning began. $40,000 hidden in a secret account. Recorded conversations showing his knowledge and anticipation of my death. And his own phone records revealing searches for chronic arsenic symptoms, life insurance payout timeline, and undetectable poisons. He'd searched that last one on our shared home computer, the one I had the password to. Criminal mastermind, everyone. Glenn's lawyer advised him to consider a plea deal. There was no viable defense. The trial would be a formality. Simone's situation resolved more quickly. The district attorney recognized that she'd been manipulated and used. She didn't know Glenn was ordering poison through her account. She didn't know she was next on his list. She'd cooperated fully with the investigation, provided crucial testimony, and helped build the case that would put Glenn away. The DA offered a deal. Probation, mandatory counseling, no jail time. Simone accepted. She'd lost her job when news of the case broke, lost her reputation, lost the future she thought she was building, but she kept her freedom. She sent me a message through Detective Reyes. Just a few words. "Thank you for telling me the truth when you didn't have to." I didn't respond. There wasn't anything left to say. We weren't friends, and probably never would be, but we understood each other in a way nobody else ever could. Telling Renata was harder than I expected. Detective Reyes informed her officially, but I called her afterward. I'm not sure why. Maybe I felt I owed her that much. Maybe I needed her to hear it from me. She didn't believe it at first. Kept saying there must be a mistake. Glenn would never. This couldn't be real. Then she went quiet. Then she cried. "I was in your house," she said through tears. "I watched you suffer. I brought you soup while you were being poisoned by my own son." I didn't know what to say to that. Neither did she. Renata wasn't charged with anything. She genuinely hadn't known. She was just another person Glenn had used. Her maternal love, her guilt, her desire to be a better mother-in-law. All of it weaponized against me without her knowledge. "We're both women who loved a man who never existed," I told her. She hung up. I haven't heard from her since. I don't blame her. Glenn refused a plea deal initially. His ego wouldn't let him admit defeat. But after his lawyer reviewed the complete evidence file, reality set in. There was no winning this case. There was only limiting the damage. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I testified for 2 days, walking the jury through 5 months of poisoning, 4 years of manipulation, and the moment a doctor's trembling hands changed everything. I looked at Glenn across the courtroom, really looked at him, searching for any trace of the man I'd married. He wasn't there. Maybe he never had been. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, Glenn's face was a mask. No fear, no remorse, no emotion at all. Guilty of attempted first-degree murder, guilty of insurance fraud, guilty of domestic abuse. The judge sentenced him to 15 years in state prison. He'd be eligible for parole after 10 years, which means he'd be 46 at the earliest when he faced a parole board. His pharmaceutical license was revoked permanently. All his assets were frozen pending my civil suit. The man who planned everything down to the milligram hadn't planned for this. Simone completed her probation and moved to California. She sent me one final message before she left, just a forwarding address in case I ever needed anything. I tucked it in a drawer and haven't looked at it since. We survived the same storm, but that doesn't make us friends. Some connections exist only in crisis. Renata sold her house to pay off her debts. Glenn had promised to help her with that $60,000 once things settled down. Things settled down differently than she'd expected. Last I heard, she moved in with her sister in Arizona. She never wrote to me. I never wrote to her. Some silences say everything that needs to be said. My recovery took about 3 months. The arsenic cleared from my system, my hair grew back thick and healthy, and the brain fog lifted like morning mist burning off a lake. I remembered who I was before Glenn, before the manipulation, before the isolation, before I became a woman who asked permission to see her own friends. I filed for divorce while Glenn awaited trial. Got everything he hadn't already stolen. I sold the house immediately. Every room held a memory that was actually a lie, and I couldn't sleep there anymore. I moved to Seattle. New city, new job, new apartment with big windows and a kitchen where I make my own breakfast every morning. Eggs, toast, fresh fruit, simple things that I control completely. There's something profound about feeding yourself, about trusting what goes into your own body. I'll never take that for granted again. Nina and I have dinner every Thursday now. She never once said, "I told you so," even though she'd earned the right. Real friends don't need to say it. They just show up and keep showing up. Glenn writes to me from prison sometimes. I recognize his handwriting on the envelopes, that neat, careful script I used to find so attractive. I've never opened a single letter. I don't know if he's apologizing, explaining, manipulating, or threatening. I don't care. Some chapters close permanently, and trying to reread them only causes pain. I used to wonder if I'd missed warning signs, if I should have known sooner, if I was stupid for trusting him. But I've made peace with that now. Glenn was good at what he did. He'd practiced his whole life. I was targeted by a predator who knew exactly how to become whatever his victim needed. My only mistake was believing that love could look like control, that devotion could feel like suffocation. I know better now. I survived because I'm stubborn, and I know how to read fine print. My father taught me that documentation is protection, and he was right. Sometimes the most dangerous person in your life shares your bed, but sometimes the strongest person in the room is the one everyone underestimated. Glenn underestimated me. That was his real mistake. These days, I wake up early and drink my coffee by the window, watching Seattle come to life below. I go to work and come home to an empty apartment that feels full of possibility instead of empty of love. I call Nina when I'm lonely. I see a therapist twice a month. I'm learning to trust myself again. Last week, someone asked me if I'd ever get married again. I told them I didn't know. Maybe someday, maybe not. The future is open now in a way it hasn't been since I was 25 years old, and I'm in no rush to fill it with anything but peace. The most dangerous person in the room is often the one who knows how to read the fine print. Remember that. Thank you so much for watching. More of my most gripping stories are already on your screen. Click one now and don't miss the best part. You will love it. See you in the next story.